Okay, so another round of it. Let's go. Cool. So, what I did was instead of having a box collider and a circle collider, which interacts with it and tells us, I have an interaction manager and a raycast that's going to tell us when we're close enough to interact with it. That's something that I picked up on one of my last projects. I think it's really interesting. That way, we can't interact when we're too far away from it, and we're also going to lock in place. That's something that I'm going to show over here. We have the player controller, which is pretty simple. I'm going to fly through this because last time I did it was about 15 minutes, so I'm going to fly through this real quick. We have a player controller, which just moves this around and also moves rotates left and right. The entire character rotates the head only up and down. Really important because I don't really need the entire character to rotate up and down. Not super important in this case, but that's just how I like to do it. Anyway, so this is the meat and potatoes of this script. And so right here, you say interaction, current game position, which means that we're just going to lock it in place. I'll show you in a little bit. Local rotation, this is the part where I say only the head's going to move via the X rotation, else the entire local rotation of the transform is going to move on the Y rotation. Cool beans. And then we're going to translate forward and sideways. Wonderful. Now, interaction manager. This is where we're going to move through the world unless we catch the line cast, which is basically just a ray cast. We're going to shoot an invisible ray out the top of our head to a certain distance, and then if we run into the 3 slot or the 5 slot and we press E, as soon as we hit it, we're going to change the tutorial text to press E to play jackspot or spin cycle. And then if we press E on either of those, then we're going to call the play game function. What is the play game function? That's an excellent question. Then we're going to say playing game is true, which it is now. Then we're going to turn our cursor on so that we can activate the input field. And then we can place our bet, and we can parse that string into an int. We can pass out the int, and then we can place our bet and all that cool stuff. Once we place our bet, then we can say type bet here. This is going to be our placeholder text, so the alpha is a little bit low, so we know that we can type something in around it. And then it's going to take away our cursor, so we know that we can't do it again while it's spinning. Excellent. So then the slot machine, this is where the meat and potatoes happens. I'll show you that a lot of this was depreciated. The only thing we need in the update is the rotate and rotation speed, time, delta time. This is the old set points, and I'll go over how it changed in a second. In the slot machine, we need a game object for the wheels. We need a transform for the ray begin, and I'll go over that in a second. We need the layer mask for the wheel mask, a list for the points, a transform for the player pause, wheel timer, and spinning. Okay, so the player pause, we lock it in position like I just said, so that we can't look around. We want the camera to be locked focus on the, locked focus on the wheel while it's spinning. Cool. Is spinning, obviously, we only want them to move while we're spinning, and then we're going to call stop wheels. It's kind of counterintuitive, but the way stop wheels works is if it's 5, that's going to be our 5 wheel. If it's 3 wheels, makes sense. And then we're going to say if it's greater than 2, we're going to say cam rotate is false for wheel 0, and then kind of step through saying turning false on at specific times. And that's how it's going to spin and then stop, 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 stop. Cool. And then at the end, we're going to allocate all winnings, calling it at that time, and then if it's spinning, we're going to stop wheels, and so we only get to call that once. Excellent. Then spin wheels, we only call that, excuse me, right here. Place bet, current game, get components, slot machines, spin wheels. So, spin wheels, float speed, random range, 200 to 300. So we're going to call that. And then we're going to say for each. Then we're going to say rotation speed, can rotate is true. So we're going to spin them all at a random speed. And we're going to say wheel timer equals 0. And then is spinning is true. So then we say we're going to spin them to the right, which how they're rotated means they're just going to spin in a row. And then rotation speed, which we set randomly, and then they're just going to rotate for time, delta time. That's all we need them to do in the wheel now. Then we're going to check matching. Makes sense. We're going to see if any of them are matching down the road. Then we're going to check for jackpot. If any of them are matching and they're matching with the 7, we're going to return that. We're going to allocate the winnings, which means if it's jackpot, we're going to make them a certain amount. If it's the actual full, if it's jackpot, check matching, it's kind of self-explanatory. We're going to cast a ray. So this, I was trying to check it off of the rotation of each, but that really wasn't working because sometimes once it reached past 180, it would be like -90 or -80, and then sometimes it would say 220, and it just wasn't consistent enough for me to push these values every single time. So what I ended up doing was on each of the sides of the slot machine wheel, I gave it an empty game object that would spin along with it. And I assigned a layer mask to the entire wheel. And as you can see, I shoot a ray from each part of the where the wheel would be, and I shoot a lay, and then I send it through a for loop, right? Wheels.length. So every time it'll go through, and for wheels.length, right? Give me one moment. So physics line cast, ray. So if it's 3, it'll do it 3 times. If it's 5, it'll do it 5 times. So then it will tell me if it runs into the wheel, boom. If it's 7, it'll hit 7. If it's the dice, it'll hit dice, and it'll give me 1. Wonderful. But basically, instead of trying to base it off rotation, what it does is it actually hits a game object with that tag on top of the image in that side of the wheel. And then we add the points. And then this is just simply a HUD manager which receives the input of the interaction check. Yeah. It took a lot of testing to get to that point. Some of the other stuff was pretty basic that I picked up from other projects. But as you can see here, give me this. Oh, am I not on that one? Okay, yeah. Sorry. This is what the wheel looks like. As you can see, every one of them has another one lined up. And then the 7 is tagged 7, but they're all tagged with the layer wheels. And that's pretty much how it works. And you see the input field, which will be turned on and off as you're playing. The credits, W. And then as you walk up to it, then you move, so you see the raycast is working. Press E, 500, and then 500 goes down. They spin, stop, stop,